Welcome to the INFOWARS Nightly News. I'm David Knight. It's Thursday, October 16th, 2014. Now, I guess we ought to name the CDC actually the contradictions in disease control, because that's what we're seeing increasingly. It's not getting any better. We're going to talk about that tonight. But first, look at the news that WND covered that Obama's Ebola czar has zero medical experience. They say that White House Homeland Security advisor Lisa Monaco, who has no professional medical expertise, was named by the White House as the point person in charge of coordinating the government's response to Ebola. This is not a surprise. We've seen this in Dallas as well. The man in charge there locally, who is issuing the quarantine orders, meeting with the press, deciding what's going to be done, is Judge Jenkins. And of course, he is a Homeland Security Director of Emergency Preparedness in that area. What we're going to see is a political response followed by a law enforcement response. We're not going to see a rational medical response. This story from Paul Joseph Watson today. A whistleblowing doctor reports that the U.S. Army rejected a successful Ebola drug 2 weeks before the outbreak. A former flight surgeon had been working with Fort Detrick to develop treatment. And of course, if you know anything about bioweapons, you know that Fort Detrick is at the center of that. In the story, he says, a doctor claims that he developed a successful drug to combat Ebola with the U.S. Army at Fort Detrick, Maryland, but that the research was inexplicably shut down 2 weeks before the first outbreak of the virus in West Africa. He said in the fall of 2013, his company began collaborating with the U.S. Army at the Level 4 bioweapons facility in Fort Detrick, Maryland, to develop the drug, and that they saw astounding success. But then, according to Davis, the drug, quote, killed 4 of the world's deadliest viruses in a dose-dependent fashion. The Army also noted that uninfected cells in the same cultures were untouched by the drug. In other words, it was non-toxic. However, after the Army initially indicated to Davis and his team that they were ready to move ahead quickly with further testing, suddenly communications completely ceased. He said, our once close communications and cordial relationship with the Fort Detrick team went totally and inexplicably silent. Our phone calls went unanswered and emails unreturned. He said he was stunned when first reports of Ebola emerged in Africa just 2 weeks later. And he says he's followed up since May. He's reached out over 200 times to the heads of every organization involved in this, organizations like the World Health Organization, Centers for Disease Control, various teams at the FDA, the National Institutes of Health, DARPA, of course, and multiple private relief aid organizations. We're seeing this happening over and over again. It is not just the incompetence in the way that they're handling quarantines, medical protocols, not giving nurses hazardous suits to work with an Ebola patient for days. It's not just that. It's that they're standing down with drugs like this that might show promise. An even more interesting case, I think, can be made about the ZMapp drug, which is being touted as a medical cure. Today on INFOWARS.com, we have a story, is it possible that an Ebola cure is being hidden from the public? Now, of course, at the same time, they're promoting this miracle drug of ZMapp, a tried and true formula that's been around for 124 years. As a matter of fact, in 1901, a German scientist won a Nobel Prize for it, taking the antibodies from people who have recovered from an infection and using them to treat people who are sick currently with the same disease. It's called convalescent serum. It's also called passive immunity. Now, it was used back in 1901. It was used to treat diphtheria and tetanus with good results. It was also used in the 1940s to prevent and to treat measles and hepatitis. Most recently, an outbreak of SARS in Hong Kong. A doctor there used it to treat 70 patients with very good results. Meanwhile, the WHO is saying that it's an unproven strategy. They're saying that they need to do more research on it, but meanwhile, they need to shut down a black market in blood transfusions. Most of the doctors and medical professionals who have survived that we've seen get these experimental drugs as they come back to the West, most of them have also gotten blood transfusions, especially the ones who have recovered. They seem to believe that it's very effective. The people in Africa seem to believe it's very effective. It's a technique that's been used for a very long time, yet they're not doing anything. They could cheaply set up a donor registry and test for blood. They have thousands of survivors that they could put into that donor registry. When they pursue ZMapp, which is based on the same strategy, except instead of using real human antibodies, it uses genetically modified mouse antibodies injected into GMO tobacco plants. It's an industrial, patented, artificial GMO version imitating the strategy that they say is unproven. Why would they do that if it was unproven? Why would they be rushing to manufacture this en masse and let the disease run its course when they could already start treating people with a simple blood donor registry? Well, we see nothing but lies and disinformation and confusion coming out of the contradicting CDC. And this is what we saw this week. We had Obama earlier come out and tell residents that they could not catch the disease sitting next to someone in a bus. Now, at a press conference, reporters from CNS News questioned the CDC director about that because, of course, the CDC has been telling people just the opposite. People who have worked in the field say they believe that you can get it by touching something that someone else has touched. So they questioned him on this contradiction, and what he basically said was, well, no, of course, you can't get it sitting on the bus, but we don't want people who have it to get on a bus because they might give it to somebody. Here's what he said exactly. I think there's two different parts of the equation. First is, if you're a member of the traveling public and are healthy, you shouldn't be worried that you might have gotten it by sitting next to someone. No, the answer to that is no. Secondly, if you're sick and you may have Ebola, should you get on a bus? The answer to that is also no. You might become ill. You might have a problem that exposes someone around you. There we go. That's the inherent contradictions. The same sorts of things that we've seen from politicians who are put in charge of a medical emergency like Judge Jenkins. He issues a quarantine for the people who were living with Mr. Duncan, and then he goes and visits for a very long time with them in the apartment, transports them for 45 minutes, shows up at a press release and tells people, I'm wearing the same shirt that I had while I was hanging with them. That's the kind of contradictions and misinformation we're seeing. Now, today we learned that a middle school in Dallas is actually getting a deep cleaning related to the Ebola outbreak. What's up with that? We have this special report from Joe Biggs.
I'm Joe Biggs with INFOWARS.com with breaking news right now out of Rolette, Texas. It's just outside of Dallas. A Schrade Middle School, I say again, Schrade, S-C-H-R-A-D Middle School, is now being cleaned because two children had parents who flew on the flight from Dallas to Cleveland with a second nurse Ebola patient that's already been moved into Atlanta. Now, the children are all still at the school from what I was told. They weren't going to be evacuated. No one's being quarantined at the time. But they said they plan on having a thorough cleaning done today, tonight, and this weekend. But they're still going to allow children to come back and act like nothing has happened. So stay tuned for more reports as I follow this here at INFOWARS.com. I'm Joe Biggs with INFOWARS.com. Hello?
Uh-huh.
Hey, my name is Joe.
How can I help you?
Hey, my name is Joe Biggs. I'm a reporter out of Austin. There's reports your school's on lockdown. Is there any truth to that?
Just a minute. Still there?
Yes.
Oh, were you wanting the nurse?
No, you guys, I've gotten multiple reports from different news sources in Dallas.
Okay.
People have called me, and I'm trying to find out is the school on lockdown or not.
No, sir. No, sir. We don't know why. No, we've heard that that's out there, but no, sir, not at all.
Okay, so CDC has not been contacted because I've been told different.
I don't know if CDC has been contacted. We have two students who have parents that were on the flight with the second nurse.
Uh-huh.
The flight to Cleveland, and as far as we know, the families were not sitting anywhere near her. As far as we know, the families have not been quarantined. So we're just as a super precaution, we're doing a deep cleaning of our school right now, tonight, and this weekend.
So you're allowing school to continue right now, though?
Well, sir, that's not my decision.
No, I'm just saying, is that I'm not like questioning you. I'm just asking you, is it still going on right now?
School is still on. School is on right now, and as far as I know, school is still happening tomorrow.
Okay.
So,
is there a point of contact, somebody who's a media person, if I need to contact later just to get to quicker?
With the communications person?
Yeah.
Yes, can you hold on and I can get that phone number?
Yes.
Hold on. Sir, are you still there?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Okay. The person to call is Chris Moore, and his office number is 972-487-3000.
What's your name?
Julie Coleman. I'm one of the counselors here.
Okay, well, be safe.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Well, that's a confirm.
Then I would ask, based on all that's transpired over the past week, should Texas families remain confident in the ability of our public health system to respond to infectious diseases of this nature?
Because the patient had no symptoms on that flight, had no fever, had no symptoms on those flights, it was actually 2 flights over, there is virtually no risk. You can push me as far as you want to say 0. I will not say 0. It's knowing what I know, there is 0 risk. I said it, there it is. I shouldn't say that. There's no risk. There's no risk. Ebola virus could be sitting there, and if I'm touching it with unbroken skin, it's not a risk.
DNA Force.
When cells become toxic, they die early and aging sets in.
DNA Force.
No one has put together a formula that focuses directly on brain health, nerve growth factors, and optimizing your cellular energy at the same time. Just one of the key compounds, BioPQQ, is backed by major clinical studies.
DNA Force.
We now have the synergistic solution. Secure your DNA Force today at InfoWarsLife.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139.
DNA Force.
The globalist social engineers are not just targeting us with propaganda. They are manipulating our genetics. We are being targeted at every level by estrogen mimickers that lower our testosterone and other hormones and natural compounds that the body needs. After consulting top doctors, nutritionists, pharmacists, and others, we have developed what I believe is the ultimate non-GMO organic super male vitality formula sourced from powerful organic herbs and then concentrated for maximum potency. Super Male Vitality was developed to activate your body's own natural processes instead of using synthetic chemicals. Super Male Vitality by InfoWars Life is so powerful that I only take half the recommended dose. For a limited time, we are offering 15% off Super Male Vitality at InfoWarsLife.com to introduce you to this powerful supplement. Visit InfoWarsLife.com today to secure your Super Male Vitality. InfoWarsLife.com.
September 30th, 2014, the CDC announces the first diagnosed Ebola case in the United States. Dallas County Judge Clay Jenkins says there is no risk of the virus spreading.
A family of 4 under quarantine this afternoon escaped the confines of their cramped apartment for a spacious private home in a gated community. Dallas County Judge Clay Jenkins personally escorted them to their new undisclosed location.
I'm wearing the same shirt I was when I was in the car with that family. If there were any risk, I would not expose myself or my family.
October 12th, 2014. The second case of Ebola is confirmed in Dallas. The virus is contracted even though the nurse wore full protective gear. This time, Dallas County Judge Clay Jenkins has reasons for concern.
The people that are that were self-monitoring, all of whom are healthcare professionals, will now be monitored twice daily by epidemiologists and interviewed today by CDC epidemiologists.
I'm Joe Biggs with InfoWars.com at the University of Texas, Austin. Now, I came out here to the campus today. I wanted to ask people if they would sign my Ebola Equality Act of 2014. Now, what this states is that we are going to allow symptomatic, non-symptomatic Ebola patients to come in from West Africa into our country and then give them the free reign to move around and do whatever they want. We leave our borders wide open. We let everybody come in and get taken care of. You know, we don't like to take care of the veterans or anything like that. That's just ridiculous. But let's bring these Ebola patients in, and you know, there's not going to be an outbreak because Obama says there's not, or Ebola, and then the CDC director says there's 0 chance that this is going to get